Thunder, 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 Thundercats! Oh.
Yeah.
It might be a tad too late to jump on the Thundercats roar wagon, but I still wanted to voice my opinion, hoping that time made it a little more informed and constructive. Lately, I came to a realization. A few years ago, if someone walked up to me and said, "Hey boy, would you like a remake of this old series you cherished and loved as a kid?" I would have gone insane with joy. Giving my favorite products a new skin? Rearm them with the immense arsenal of things authors learned throughout years of new, enticing and modern narration? Repurpose flows, thinking horizontal instead of vertical, allow for actual development in characters I adore? Hell yeah, count me in! But now, every time news comes of an old property being reworked, I fear. I fear because I have seen what reboots and remakes mean to the industry. How many products have been remade with the promise of being much grander than the ones before, only to end up just being washed up versions with no comprehension nor actual trust in the original. Surely enough for me and many others to shiver at the mere idea of seeing our beloved iconic characters being shred to pieces by some corporate that, whether the author involved wants it or not, will make unnecessary changes to what made them unique in the first place. Fortunately enough, there are some good examples for success. Voltron, Ducktales, the old Thundercat reboot that got cancelled. They all managed to succeed in making a worthy, respectful retelling of our favorite tales. Some of them probably made them even better. So, what's the fuss about this one? Is the backlash justified? Is there a reason not to like a show because it's different? Before anything else, I'll make one thing clear. The problem isn't in the animation or style being ugly. I read people calling Thundercats Roar drawings horrible and its movements awful. They just aren't. I'm sorry, they're just objectively not deemable as bad. If you want to criticize the show, you have to do it right, and saying it's not working because of the art style and animation being ugly simply won't do in this case, since they're not such. Not on their own. The first is colorful and fun to look at. The latter feels dynamic and energetic. It looks good for what it's trying to achieve. If you want to see what actual bad drawings and animation look like, go no further than The Treasure Planet. What? No, not that Treasure Planet! That's the good one from Disney! I meant The Treasure Planet! Look! And here's an unpopular one. Even then, who's to say you need good drawings and nice animation to tell a good story? Surely they help, but Rooster Teeth's Nomad of Nowhere sports a simplistic twin-head style that I will define cheap to say the least. But you know what? After I saw it, I wouldn't want it to be otherwise, because they made it up with characters, design, sound design, and a good storytelling culminating into a deliciously open ending. Obviously, bad animation is more than a good deal breaker, but I'd say that even if it's only decent, it can pass by if there's a nice story to go with it. I'm seriously convinced that as long as you have a vision, a decent artistic direction, and a certain degree of reasoning behind how your product looks, you can make something bland and maybe a little indecent a commercial success. With Thundercats Roar, though, indecent, in terms of movement, isn't the right term by far. I'd say, in fact, it looks very cool. There's no way this will ever pass as ugly in my vocabulary. It's just bouncy and gummy. Let's not forget, colorful characters proved incredibly effective in the past to tell good action, adventure, and serious stories, just as much as more detailed and realistic styles prove to be able to deliver comedy no problem. I've seen so many of you reasoning within watertight compartments. Humoristic style is for goofy stories only, realistic is for serious stories only, nye. That's simply not how it works, yet popular consent says otherwise. So much so, we've recently seen entire shows using this very prejudice against us. Crafting a colorful, bright world filled to the brim with adorable designs to fool us into believing they're simply the next silly sketch comedy just to suddenly stab our sides by tackling consistent world building, deep narrations, and a good degree of character development. Sometimes adding to the mix some action and a good chunk of horror even. And be it because Warner Bros. Or Cartoon Network pushed it, or because Victor Cartwright actually envisioned this remake as it is, the only real issue here, relatable to many other brands sharing a similar story, it's we're talking about Thundercats specifically. But hold your horses! I know what you're thinking. He's going to pull the old "you shouldn't misjudge it because it's different" thing, like he did for Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I simply won't. That reasoning worked on the Turtles because, from the info I had back when I made the video, they seemed prompt towards keeping the action of the show the main focus. The comedy could have been just an edge towards the campiness of the original cartoon, a compromise to follow this humoristic formula from more recent and popular cartoons while remaining loyal to their roots. Oh, and on a side note, I know a few episodes are out and already debunking this theory, but I won't step off this mindset as long as I don't see a good chunk of the whole show. Also, I have something to say about the TMNT video at the very end of this one, so stay tuned. Back on track. As I was saying, the problem is in the title itself. The series is parading a big Thundercats on top of it, and I'm sorry, that cannot be avoided to be taken in consideration. Why, you might find yourself wondering? And why Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles got a pass? Well, I think that when it comes to products that have been made at least once before, there's already a very specific standard set by their previous iteration. One that needs to be respected, and I think the Turtles still have a chance to do so. But what do I mean by standard? With the word standard, I'm not talking about how good or bad the series was technically. Oh no, it would be too simple. I'll do what I can to explain, but be patient, it's something I find quite difficult to do in Italian too, so I'll try my best with my poor English. Put simply, an artistic product, be it a video game, a show, a comic, or a movie, can be complete and utter shit and still have a standard that might or might not have anything to do with the quality of the product itself. In a product standard, we can find style, narration, animation, sound design, writing, specific events that occur that are dear to the fans, music cues from themes to specific noises, costumes, and basically it doesn't incorporate quality alone, but the whole experience, which is inevitably dictated by a specific set of elements that might be as many as the ones I listed, might be more or even less. But they made the product what it was. Let's see a readapted series with a broken standard. Power Rangers. The series was dangerously flawed, but it developed a following, one that got used to the standard it was presented with. It's campy, it doesn't take itself too seriously, while probably not being all too aware about it, with a heavy focus on toy designs and robot fights. These, on the other hand, are taken extremely seriously in universe, no matter how ridiculous they might look to us. Especially because that ridiculousness is part of the fun. When they remade them for the new movie, they stripped the Rangers of all the appeal, trying to make them look more epic, toning the colors down, removing all the elements that were deemed nonsensical or wacky just to shoehorn them in under the distorted shape of short-lived pandering. They didn't trust the series and what made it popular in the first place. Oh, sorry, did I say they didn't trust it? I can't know that for sure, and that's very important to remember, because whether they actually did or not, that's how it gets through. If you change a standard to such extreme degrees, it doesn't matter just how many people in your staff actually like the product and grew up with it. When a fan goes see it, he will have, unconsciously or not, that awful betrayal feeling boiling inside him, going, "Why did they change my thing? Didn't they like my thing? I liked my thing." Now, keep in mind that respecting a standard doesn't mean not making changes. In fact, it's heavily encouraged, especially because times do change and new means of making entertainment are discovered. If you're going to remake a show and do the very same thing as before, you might as well simply re-air the original. But there has to be a middle ground somewhere. There is such a thing as too different. I think we can all agree that things like changing the tone or even the whole genre of a beloved franchise are undoubtedly going to have a powerful impact on its overall feel. How it looks, how it sounds, it all needs so much readapting, you might even start wondering why not making a whole new thing entirely at this point. It's wise to assume that when so many important transformations are happening, people won't recognize the original in the brand new product you're making anymore. The name of an existing franchise becomes a nuisance for something that might have the potential to stand on its own 2 feet. This is probably why Resident Evil 4 became Devil May Cry at some point. Resident Evil, for those who might not know, is an horror game, one that already had a strong following. During development of the 4th installment in the series, the author noticed just how far him and his team were straying from the roots of prior iterations. Be it because they were inspired in that direction, or because they preferred making more enticing gameplay as opposed to the slow, clumsy one you're expecting from a horror, the game was slowly turning into a full action title. Instead of scrapping everything or keep working under the Resident Evil logo for easy marketing, as they could have done, they decided to change the title and make something new. Devil May Cry became a popular action game adored by many, one that is about to see a sequel in the near future. Imagine an alternate universe in which Devil May Cry is exactly as we know it, but has Resident Evil 4 slapped on the cover. It would most likely meet a strong resistance from fans of the series, and not because it's bad, it's still in fact a wonderful action game, but it's not loyal to the expectation that comes with the title. And who knows, maybe it wouldn't get to be as popular, it wouldn't spawn sequels, it would die, leaving an action-craving crowd hungry for years to come. And I'm sorry, it wouldn't be the fans' fault. I would have been quite mad too if that was how Resident Evil 4 turned out. Now, for a good example of respected standard, Ducktales. Fans loved it because of the unexpected, heavy focus on adventure, mystery and intrigue with a pinch of comical action in it, recurring characters and a colorful presentation. Aside from a more blocky style and a less fluid animation, the new Ducktales presents all of the same, modernizing the style and adding depth to the cast, taking it a step beyond by overhauling some of the characters' designs and utilizing a modern narration to make it more mature while keeping it fairly lighthearted but to not damage the original feel of the series and to make a fair compromise with children, effectively making it more of a family cartoon in line not only with the brand, but with classic Disney mentality as well. While it's very hard, if not impossible, to make everyone happy because nostalgic series are such a delicate matter to handle and, well, because even when starting a product from scratch that's just how it is, you can see how Ducktales managed to make a lot of tweaks and major changes while respecting the original standard, at least for a huge chunk of the public. To really pin down what disrespecting a previously set standard means, let's try and remake a series of our own. Not only one that is very old, but one that went mostly untouched for generations, meaning that what we're going to create will most likely influence all that will be made after our own interpretation, especially if it's a hit. Popeye. Now that's a good brand. It's old but simply too influential to be entirely forgotten. Considerably more than Thundercats actually. Now let's look at the source material. Yeah, big lot of physical humor, fluid animation, simplistic style. From what we can see, there's a strong importance around the relationship between Olive Oil, Bluto and Popeye. Yeah, nah, scratch that. Remove this element entirely. Olive shouldn't be contended. People don't like that nowadays. Let's make the show about something else entirely. I heard kids like horizontal storytelling nowadays, but there's no way a comedy can have it. Let's remove that aspect almost entirely and push on the action. We'll make it more serious, more cool. He looks a little too funny, too cartoonesque. Make him more realistic, more gritty. Kids like their heroes sad. Nah, not enough. I want him grittier. He's an old man. Shouldn't this be a cartoon for kids? Kids can't possibly relate with an old man, which means they definitely cannot like him. Yeah, he looks younger, but he's still too ugly. Remove the Batchina, thank you very much. Alright, let's stop here before it gets out of hand. Let's compare the original to what we did. Yep, focus entirely shifted. It's something completely different now. Man, if you don't like Popeye so much that you need so many rearrangements, just don't use Popeye. And you know what? This new show we just made up, just like with Devil May Cry, might even be wonderful. It might get to be the coolest action cartoon ever. It might be well written and manage to grab a new crowd of devoted fans, but you just can't expect the old ones to be enthusiastic about it because it's just not Popeye. And it's not even, some kind of weird spin-off, a different vision parallel to the actual product, maybe a sideshow or an alternate universe. No, they're making this the main thing, and it can't be because it's just too different. Surely a more action-focused crowd might be pleased and get involved, but what about all those that are still in love with funny Popeye? Oh god, look at me getting all worked up about an example remake that doesn't even exist. As I said before, change is fine, sure, but there has to be a line somewhere, and that line is dictated by the previous series standard. Otherwise, why have a character become iconic in the first place? Why getting involved into what he does and how he looks if he has no consistency? It doesn't only show that they don't care, which might even be fair to a degree, although not to me, but it definitely shows a strong insecurity in the one thing that should be inspiring them in the first place. They're basically saying the original product sucks. The same original product from which they're taking the designs, the original product of which they're exploiting the crowd. If they did put Thundercats in the title, knowing it will grab hold onto nostalgia, I assume they knew very well that, in its prime, the cartoon managed a degree of success. Isn't it a bit silly to think the show you're recycling wasn't good enough when clearly you're recycling it because it was good enough? From the Thundercats trailer, it seems as if it's not trying to follow even one of the core elements of the series before. It's acting as if there was absolutely nothing before itself, as there were no standards prior to the one they're making. It's not giving us a new vision spiced up with modern narration and designs, it's giving us an entirely new thing with Thundercats written on it. And of course, this is not a problem that applies to Thundercats alone, but in general to all remakes with a similar story. The characters involved aren't important, the setting isn't important, the whole personality of the old series is most likely to either disappear or be mocked. Which, again, might even be done properly. Take Sonic Boom. You can see the same problem there. It's transforming something supposedly action-based into a comedy, and it's still making it a success among many, even with people that wasn't all that into it to begin with. Yet, that doesn't make it a Sonic cartoon. Sure, Sonic is in the title and the designs are there, although from the wrong game, but nothing feels like the product of inspiration. Not that there's much to be inspired from recently. And I mean, it's not like Sonic Boom didn't get better with time. Authors seem to grasp the community's concerns more than Sega will ever do. But still, Sonic was built for fast, enticing action, cool mecha designs that won't break up conveniently to the moral of the story. Definitely an idiotic villain, yeah, but one that is an actual danger to the main characters, not a parody of one. I mean, full-on sketch comedy isn't what I think when I hear Sonic. I don't think many positive things either. The comics are a saving grace though. They seem to be nailing all of this flawlessly, demonstrating that Sonic can go along well with a good, talky narration, unlike people seems to be saying, going on about the fact that he shouldn't talk at all in order to be a decently written character. Aha! No, sorry, I'll stop right now. I was going on a tangent. As you can see, part of me is still disappointed with the product, even while entertained, because it's not respecting enough of the standard I've been exposed to, the one I expect to be, to a degree, followed, acknowledged, and respected. This wouldn't be an issue if the brand wasn't already popular, of course. But, you know, we have a way of answering to ifs around here. Yeah, obviously, and if my grandpa had 3 balls, he would be a flipper. The fandom who grew with these brands is up and alive, and when a reboot or a remake is announced, they want to be happy about it, because it's a chance to breathe new life into something they might have given up on ever seeing again. Add to the whole bag the fact that while a standard does have a general shape formed by collective consent, in each and specific individual's head it's something special and entirely different, and you'll see just how complicated this all gets. People have different degrees of attachment to these things, and I'm surprised whoever decided to make this new version didn't consider it. I honestly think they don't care because they grew conscious about the fact that it's mostly adults complaining rather than the average kids from which they most likely will get the money from. I'm saying this giving for granted that it's someone else other than the artist involved that requested the work. But if this is really an artist's vision, which can be absolutely plausible, I'm just sorry it's not catching up, and I'm afraid the point I made applies anyways. Now, don't you go around spouting the usual, it's just a cartoon for kids, grown men shouldn't care, because the fact you're still here watching this probably means you either are a grown man who cares about these things too, or you might become one, so grow some respect for yourself. Not to mention the fact this line of reasoning is kind of offensive towards anyone working in the industry, considering all of them are grown men and women caring very much about cartoons too, to the point where they made it their jobs in fact. And they already have enough trouble being respected as it is without such nonsense being blabbled about.
Animation is so hard! People who do this for a living deserve more credit and respect!
Now, about all that I said about Thundercats Roar, if you're thinking, nah, you're just being nostalgic about it, I'm sorry to say it's impossible. I can't be nostalgic about Thundercats. Yes, I can't because I didn't like it? Yep, all of the video you have to take knowing that growing up, I never enjoyed Thundercats past the intro. To this day, that's still the best portion of the show in my opinion, going beyond it exposed me to a cheesy and boring narration. I mean, that's how I felt about it then. I liked the much more boring shows as a kid, but for some reasons this one simply didn't connect. I couldn't get past the main character burliness, I was too into clean-shaven androgynous animators to enjoy fudgy, beefy man. And I just didn't like he was a lion while still looking so human. In fact, I didn't give the revival of 2011 a chance until only a few years before this video, much after its cancellation. Growing up I started getting into its charm a bit more, but it's simply not a cartoon engraved enough into my past to be nostalgic, not one bit. And even then, the one video I made before this one is about a nostalgic cartoon of mine, and I was entirely open about the changes in style and approach. It should be enough to show I don't simply reason through pre-made schemes here, I try to take each and every situation individually to say what I think, knowing perfectly just how wrong I might be. And speaking of right and wrong, in the video about Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, I made a major point out of something that wasn't exactly right. If you go and check it, you'll hear me saying how the character silhouettes are all different to one another, especially compared to the older Turtles. That couldn't be farther from the truth. The reason for getting this wrong was because I checked the fact after the making of the video, and when I noticed it, I had all recorded already, and because it took me so long to make the video in the first place, and also because I thought no one would ever care to sit through the entirety of it, I left it there. My point wasn't that one alone, and I still think what I said in the video is right overall, I just pointed the finger towards the wrong culprit. The turtle design stands out compared to the older ones through a stronger use of colors and gadgetry, which is just as grand. Except Raphael, his silhouette definitely stands out. Even with me saying this now, I wanted to apologize because I made a much bigger mistake than getting something wrong. By not trusting myself and the chances my content had to get some traction, I misplaced my trust towards you guys too, and I couldn't be more naive. The video got tons of views, and without even trying to advertise the thing, I got wonderful support by gathering 4,000 and past subscribers in nearly no time. You were amazing, and even if this might look like a small amount to some, it's quite a big one to me. But this isn't over yet. I want to keep making more videos like this, and in order to do so, I need more support. The only way to get it is by working hard. I am very aware that this is just the beginning, and I hope I'll be good enough to keep you all here with me. If this ever gets to be a bigger journey, that is. Just know that I'll do my best to keep myself informed and to correct my mistakes whenever they're there. They're there. In light of this, if you liked my content, please hit the subscribe button, share the channel, check our socials, and if you don't agree with what I said, I urge you to let me know. Same thing applies to critics. We're working to improve, and any little advice can make the difference. Have a beautiful day. Ciao!